It's 19 minutes past 6, and there's a bit of a brawl on a proposal to get more women's sport on the telly. It started yesterday when Labor pledged $21 million to expand coverage of women's sport on ABC TV and digital platforms. Liberal Democrat Senator David Leyonhjelm has called it politically correct nonsense and a waste of taxpayers' money. And in return, Bill Shorten, the opposition leader, compared the senator to a cave dweller.
Oh, well, back to the caves. Back to the cave, Stone Age man.
David Leyonhjelm is the Liberal Democrat Senator for New South Wales, and he's, of course, running again. And he's also the so-called Stone Age man. Welcome to RN Drive.
Good afternoon.
Senator, before I get to all of that, I want to give you a chance to reply to Bill Shorten's in a second, of course, because I'm very interested in this. But one of your senior advisors, Helen Dale, has abruptly quit your office. What caused that?
Oh, look, she didn't like the campaign. She quite liked some of the issues that she dealt with when she was working with me in Parliament House, but election campaigns are not for everyone. Was it you? Did you do something to annoy her? No, it wasn't me. I don't think it's just fair on her or the rest of my staff to talk about that, to be honest.
You sent an email to party colleagues proposing to replace Helen Dale with Liberal Democrats founder John Humphreys. You write, it would only be until the election. I suggest a lump sum figure of $5,000 cash, half now, half at the end. We'll ignore tax, etc. What does that last part mean, we'll ignore tax? Because that's illegal, isn't it?
No, there's nothing illegal about it. The party's at liberty to engage contractors and pay them, and provided they have an ABN. It's the responsibility of the contractor to deal with their tax issues. That's all that meant. That was a confidential email, by the way.
Well, it's been leaked now, and yes, so we've read it. I
understand, yes. But it was it was referring to the fact that the party won't need to go through the process of putting Mr Humphreys on as an employee.
But you didn't write that you'd engage as the person as a contractor. Those aren't the words. Talk about avoiding tax. This is cash in hand, isn't it?
Are you criticising me for my language in an internal confidential email?
I'm asking a question.
What's your question?
My question is, were you trying to pay this person cash in hand? Because you don't mention contract work in this email.
No, but I don't mention anything much in that email. It was intended for the party executive, and all I was really pointing out was that we don't need to go through the process of making Mr Humphreys an employee of the party. That's all that was intended to convey.
Okay, so do you think it's wrong to avoid paying tax? Is the black economy something you think, is it wrong that people try and avoid tax and pay cash in hand?
Of course not. An illegal obligation, the party wouldn't break the law. I'm sure no contractors working for the party, and Mr Humphreys won't be the only contractor working for the party, I could point out. I'm sure they'll pay their tax as they're legally obliged to do.
So you're still going to go through with this contract for this John Humphreys?
Of course. Why not?
All right, I want to move on to the other controversial comments you've made, which have certainly upset the opposition leader. Do your views on women's sport belong in the 21st century?
What do you think my views on women's sport are?
Well, articulate your views on women's sport and then we'll see. What are your views on women's sport and on funding, seeing it on television?
Okay, there are two issues at stake. One is women's sport per se. I have no problem whatsoever with women's sport. It's good for your health to play sport. It's entertaining. Lots of people enjoy it. As long as it's a free choice, I'm all in favour. The question that prompted my comments about women's sport was whether it was appropriate for the government to hand over an additional $21 million on top of the $1.2 billion the ABC already gets in order to increase its coverage of women's sport. Now, my view was that the ABC is already receiving quite enough money to broadcast women's sport. Quite enough. The government, the budget is in $40 billion deficit. Handing out money on the basis of political correctness, especially at a time when we have a deficit, as I said, of $40 billion and it's costing us $1 billion a month in interest, is fiscal irresponsibility. I'd rather be a caveman than a fiscal fiend.
Your line today was, if women's sport is not popular enough to be shown on television, why is it okay to spend taxpayers' money on it? I suppose the question then is, should all public funding hinge on popularity? Because there's other unpopular things that are funded.
That doesn't make it right.
No, that's what I'm asking, a broader question about whether you think anything that's unpopular shouldn't be publicly funded.
Well, yes, I think that's probably right when we don't have enough money to pay for the things that governments have to do. We argue about whether or not welfare is sufficient, well directed or not, whether our health system is sufficiently well funded, whether we can afford Gonski funding, the National Disability Insurance Scheme, whether we can pay for $50 billion worth of submarines, goes on and on and on. We cannot pay for everything. There are some things that the governments have to do that nobody else will do and that we regard as just, unavoidable. Now, we can't even afford to pay for those things. We've got a $40 billion per year deficit. Now, under those sort of circumstances, handing out $20 million on something that really ought not to cost the taxpayers anything at all, that if it was popular, the free-to-air TV stations would broadcast it anyway, is a total indulgence.
So many people who know something about sport in this country say that women's sports need some faith placed in them to get some more exposure, to bring bigger followings and sponsorships, that effectively they need to, people need exposure to them for them to get the kind of followings we see with male sports. Do you think that's an opportunity worth pursuing?
Yes, I understand that argument, and I'm not disagreeing with it. But are we really saying that the ABC needs to be bribed with $21 million in order not to be sexist? And if we go further than that, then we can say, well, look, Indigenous sport deserves to be supported more. It gets more exposure. It might get more sponsorship. What about gay sport? What about disabled sport? Where does it end? And which sports do we choose? Maybe we'll get a bit more women's basketball or netball on air as a result of $21 million. But what about women's mountain biking or women's kayaking or go-karts or softball? Where does it end? Just because somebody says, oh, women need to be seen on television playing more sport, that's not sufficient by itself.
Do you like sport?
Yes, but the kind of sports that I like have wheels on them. They involve motorbikes and cars, not balls. But it's a personal choice. I have no quarrel with any sport that anybody likes. What I have a problem with is handing out taxpayers' dollars to things that when we have much more important priorities. And
just finally, how confident are you feeling about your chances of getting re-elected now that we've got a double dissolution election? Obviously, the quota is halved. Are you feeling good about it?
Yeah, the double dissolution is an absolute gift to parties like mine, those that already have a presence in Parliament. The quota is halved. Somewhere between 3% and 6% will be sufficient for the 11th and 12th senator in each state to be elected. I got 9.5% in 2013. We got 3.5% in WA and South Australia. On those sort of numbers, even if we just repeat those numbers, we'll be well and truly re-elected. We're actually expecting to increase our representation in the Senate, not just hold my seat. This double dissolution has turned out to be a gift to parties like ours.
Does that mean that it's going to be a very difficult and dysfunctional Senate potentially for whoever becomes Prime Minister, whichever party wins the election on July the 2nd?
There's a fair chance of that. We think that could be somewhere between 6 and 12 crossbench senators, and that's not even including the Xenophon factor in South Australia. It's quite likely they'll pick up 3. So there could easily be a much bigger crossbench. It depends a little bit whether they are blocks or not, whether it'll be easier or harder for the government to get stuff through. One thing the government will have to do, assuming it's the Liberals, and that might be a bit of a rash assumption, but if the Liberals win it again and need to negotiate through the Senate, they'll absolutely have to lift their game. One of the reasons they had such a difficult time in the last Parliament was that they were terrible at negotiating with the crossbench, absolutely terrible. And that even includes working with me and Senator Bob Day from South Australia, who are, in Bob's case, he's very sympathetic to the Liberals.
Right-leaning.
I'm sort of broadly inclined that way. So even with us, they were pretty terrible.
Senator, many thanks for your time.
My pleasure.
That's the Liberal Democrat Senator for New South Wales, David Leyonhjelm, who, of course, is running again. And I'll be speaking to Nerily Meadows from Fox Sports later on in this hour. I'm interested to know what she thinks of all of this. You heard David Leyonhjelm's view there. He thinks he described it as a bribe, giving money to the ABC to run more women's sport. What do you think? 0418 226 576. That's the number you can text us on. If you live in the world of social media, our hashtag on Twitter is #RNDrive.